Hello and welcome back to Mr. Miller's Art Room, and I am super excited today because today we are going to be working on one of my favorite projects. We are going to be creating snowflakes. Every snowflake that we create is going to be unique from one another.
Well, Mr. Miller, what will we need in order to create these snowflakes?
I'm glad you asked, Mr. Monocle. First thing we're going to need is a square piece of paper. And when I say square, I mean really, truly square. All the sides of this piece of paper have to be the exact same length in order for this project to work. The next and only thing that we need after that are age-appropriate scissors. I'll be using these because of my big hands. Now, I suggest using a regular piece of printer paper that you get at any store because the paper is kind of thin, it's easy to cut, and it's easy to fold. But with this paper, we need to cut it down to size. This paper is 8.5 inches by 11 inches tall. So obviously we can't get an 11-inch square here. We're going to have to do 8.5 inches. There's a couple of ways that you can make a perfectly square piece of paper, and I'm going to show you both. The first way is to use a ruler to measure 8.5 inches at 2 points. I could measure it right here and right here. So what I'll do is I'll throw this right here, boom, boom, 8.5, move it down, and then do 8.5.
Well, Mr. Miller, why 2 points instead of 1?
Good question, Mr. Monocle. The reason we need 2 points is that if we have 2 points, we can easily connect a line together. That means that I'll take my pencil, put it on the point, take my ruler, put it on the pencil, and move my ruler until the edge of my ruler touches the second point. And now I'll know that I have a straight line.
But, Mr. Miller, what if you don't have a ruler?
Good question, Mr. Monocle. If you don't have a ruler, there is a completely different way of doing this. And that way is actually folding the paper at a perfect 90-degree angle. The edge of this paper and the corner of this paper needs to match the edge and corner here, so that it's a complete fold. Now, it won't fold, because this is 8.5 inches, it's not going to fold all the way to this corner. It's going to fold down to here. Watch what happens. I'll take the corner of this paper, I will draw it all the way down. I have to use both hands to do this, but once the edge of the paper is completely lined up with the bottom edge of the paper, I'll pin down the fold, the crease that we're about to make. A crease is when you permanently fold a piece of paper by pressing down the edge. And what you'll wind up having is this triangle connected to this rectangle. Well, this triangle happens to be unfolded. It's going to be a perfect square. Now, the next thing I would need to do is fold this over. I could fold it either way. I like folding it this way to start, like so. Well, that's not quite as good as it could be. Another thing you could do is actually take your pencil and make that mark right there. I was off just a little bit, but essentially you could fold it, or you can make that mark and cut up along that edge, and then you've got your perfect square. The next step is that we need to fold this paper in half. There's 2 ways you can fold it. You can fold it what I call taco style, or you can fold it in squares. I like taco style because I think it gives you a more dramatic and fun-looking snowflake. What I'm going to do is hold the tip in front of me, pull the corner down until the top triangle matches the bottom triangle, corner to corner, edge to edge.
Corner to corner, edge to edge.
Then, once it's there, pin it down so it doesn't move. Take one pointer finger and smooth it up to the middle. What happens is that crease will lock the paper where you need to put it. Then take your other hand, pointer finger, and then push out replace it, push out. We're not done yet. We got to fold it at least one more time. So I'm going to turn this on this side. And I need this corner to fold down to here to match this corner. So what I do is I put my one finger, doesn't matter which one finger at the approximate middle, grab the tip up here, draw it downward, and then I need to kind of slide it carefully into place until it's right about where I need it. Then I'm going to use my hand to pin it down. I'm going to use this hand to press the crease. Once again, a crease. Oh, I'm starting to get a mistake. That's okay. It's no problem. It's not too late to fix it. Kind of readjust it, and then press the crease to make that fold into the paper permanent. This is the fun part. We're going to get to cut. Now, really what you want to do is think about different shapes that you'd want to try. It's now time for my favorite part, which is actually cutting the shapes out. I'm going to show you a very simple version. Then I'm going to show you a couple of what not to do's. So when we have this triangle here, we need to cut out shapes. And we can cut out shapes from any of these three sides. We can actually even cut off some of the corners if we want. The only thing we don't want to do is have the shapes that we cut out touch each other. So maybe the first one I'm going to try to do is I'm going to say to myself, let's keep it simple. Let's cut out only triangles, because that means that I'll only need 2 different cuts. So I'll start here. I'll cut out 1, 2, 3, and 4 triangles. With these scraps, I can just take them, put them in a pile aside. Then what I can do is carefully open up this snowflake. And as you can see, we have a whole bunch of really cool looking triangular shapes. When these shapes look the same on either side, it's a very special word called symmetry.
Symmetry? What, pray tell, is symmetry?
Like I said, when shapes look the same on one side as the other, that's called symmetry. These snowflakes demonstrate symmetry. Can everybody say symmetry?
Symmetry!
Now, I can make this more complicated by going back into this snowflake. I can come over here to this side and add a couple of more cuts. I can even add really tiny cuts if I feel careful enough. But you gotta be careful, because what you don't want to do is have your shapes cut all the way through. If your shapes wind up touching from one side to the other, your snowflake will fall apart. So we don't want that. Another thing that helps sometimes, if you're not very confident with your cutting, is to use a pencil, crayon, or marker in order to draw the shapes onto your snowflake before you cut, so you know where your cuts are going to go. This time what I'm going to do is draw a series of squares and rectangles. I just drew the squares and rectangles here, and I did a little tiny scribble on the inside to indicate what is the piece of paper that's going to disappear. I'm also going to double check to see if any of these shapes are touching. So, Mr. Monocle, are any of these shapes touching each other?
Well, I dare say none of them are touching one another.
Well, in that particular case, that means that this snowflake won't fall apart. What I'm going to do next is start cutting them. When I cut these out, I'll snip in a certain place, then I will turn so that my scissors line up with the line. And I'll snip, and I'll turn my paper and snip, and do that over and over again until you're done. I just finished. I'm going to take all these scraps, I'm going to push them back into the pile, and I'm going to have this in front of me. Now, when there's a lot of cuts like this, you want to be extra careful when you open this up. But opening it up is so much fun. Take your time, slowly and carefully. Now, if you open this up and you accidentally rip it or break it, don't worry about it. There's a lot more paper where that came from. But look how beautiful that is. So if this is something you'd like to try, go ahead and give it a try. Please feel free to rewind or pause this video at any time if you need some extra help with that. And thank you very much. Have a good day.